Hello everybody, it's Karen. Thanks for joining me once again. I've got another video on the same supplies and two different cards. And today I thought I would make this card using these supplies here. So I've got some sentiments that I have gold heat embossed from the Greetery. The Cosmos flower is from Simon Says Stamp. These butterflies are from Stampendous, and that set is just called Butterflies. It's an older set, but I really like these butterflies. And I sometimes stamp them off, I find it easier to see if they're stamped rather than in the package. So that's what I did there. Now, this set is a British set. It's chocolate Baroque, and it's a few years old. I've had this for a little while, but I love that set. Here is the new Ink Drops Ocean set from Craft Consortium, and I love these papers. It's like somebody's done alcohol ink blending for you, and it's all different shades, different colors. You can pick little corners of it to use. You could use the whole page. Just really pretty colors, and I thought instead of it just being ocean, it could be for my florals that I'm going to use today. So for all of my coloring, I'm using these Karin Brushmarkers. Now, if you don't have those, you could use zig markers or Tombow markers, but I would definitely use that Bristol cardstock. These markers and Tombow and the zig will not blend on regular cardstock. So there's a coating on the Bristol that you definitely want to be taking advantage of. And so here I am just stamping or inking up directly onto my stamp and then stamping it down on my Bristol paper. And I'm going in here with a lighter shade of green. You can see how juicy those markers are. There's loads of ink in them. And I'm just going to stamp all that down. I just wanted to get a bit of a blend between the greens. And then the tips I did in a yellow. So very spring-like colors. We're in the middle of winter here, and I'm desperate for spring and summer. So these two cards end up being very summery. But maybe that's good in the middle of winter. Okay, so now I've got a water brush and a scrap of paper towel, and I am just blending out those colors, and when I get too much ink on my brush, I just dab it off. And so I'm blending the dark into the medium and the light into the medium, and they move so well on that Bristol paper. They're really pretty stamps, these actually. I think they're a really nice set. It's an older one. I don't know how long I've had it, so I don't even know if it's still around or not. But honestly, for everything I did today, just go through your stash and use what you have, because I'm sure you've got butterflies, flowers, and leaves, and that's all that mattered. So here I've scribbled off a little bit of that onto my craft mat, a little of the Karin marker, and I'm going back in just to add a little more depth to the colors. Pretty simple. I don't do watercolor, but this kind of makes me feel like I could. I know I don't, but it makes you feel that way. So this is a Versamarker pen, and I am just going over the body and a little bit on the wing tips, and I'm going to gold heat emboss that just to blend in with that paper and the sentiments that I have. And there you can see how it is once that's heat set. And so my flowers now, like I said, I used the Karin markers for those. I'm just putting a little bit of Scotch tape on the back to hold that center in, because I think it's really meant to be popped up. And I have prills, and if you've never seen prills, this is what they look like. They're all different shapes and sizes, which is really kind of fun. And I've just made a little dish out of aluminum foil there, and I'm using my Copic marker refill. If you don't have Copic marker refills, you could just use alcohol ink for this. And I just put a couple of dabs in, and I'm using my paintbrush to mix those all around, get the color on them. Now on this Cosmos flower, there's kind of dots where it would be shading, and it just sort of goes along the bottom, so that I only put my ink down at the bottom there, and then I'm using a palette knife to just spread these prills onto that. And then I just put them under a block to set. So you can see I've got everything colored. I've got my 6x6 inch piece of this cardstock, and I decided to go with a square card because I really love that cardstock. But you'll see in the end, you don't see very much of it. So So I'm making a card because it is a 6-inch square card, and I just cut one piece of cardstock that was 6 inches and the other was 6 inches by 6 1/4. And I made a little tab and stuck them together, and now I'm using my tape gun to put this cardstock onto the front of the card. And I thought for this one it needed a frame. So I am using these decorative squares or die set from Creative Expressions for this one. And that is a 6-inch square. So for each of my flowers, I decided to give them a bit of dimension. And so I'm just curling the leaves around my paintbrush. It doesn't take much. I don't know if this would stand up in the mail. It probably wouldn't, but at least it's giving it a little bit of dimension at the beginning. And here you can see I totally winged this card. I didn't really know what I was going to do, but I am just trying to figure out, okay, what do I do with all these things now? So this is me trying to figure out what goes where. So I'm saving you the agony. I don't keep all that in. So here I've put everything down where I think I want them. And I just bend the wing tips up on those butterflies as well, and I just glue the centers down. So again, if you're sending it through the mail, that may not hold up terribly well, but I think that, you know, once it got there, then the recipient could bend up the wings if they wanted. And I decided not to use that little piece of sentiment that said, "It's your day to celebrate." I just thought if I left it at "celebrate," that was a bit more generic. It could be all kinds of things that you could celebrate. So that just made it more usable, I thought. So there's the first card, nice big square card, and here's the second. I bet you didn't see this coming. It's a box card. Now, if you've seen any of my videos, I just recently did a video on making box cards without dies, and this is how I make this one. It's called I call it the mini slimline. And so if you're interested, you can take a screenshot of this to get the dimensions. I've cut all that pattern paper out just like that, but I also cut a piece of cardstock for each one, and I'm just going to mount them on the cardstock. That paper is, I think, 180 GSM, so it's pretty strong, but I don't think strong enough to be a box card. So I just doubled everything up, glued them all down. And now for those side pieces, you need to score them at 1/4 inch in from one end, just the one end though for the side pieces. And then the front piece and all the cross pieces need to be scored at 1/4 inch in from both ends. So that's all I'm doing there, just creasing at 1/4 inch. And now the back on this, I like to have somewhere to write a message. So I cut another piece that was, I think that was 4 1/4 inches wide by 8 inches, and scored it in the middle, and then I rounded the corners on it. And so to assemble this, I've taken the release paper off that one side. You line up the edge of the front with the crease on the side piece, and make sure the bottoms are lined up. And I'll do that again on this side. So line it up against the crease line and make sure the bottoms are even. And then just push it down. Then for the front piece, I took the release paper off, and I'm lining up the top and the bottom and making sure that that side flap goes to the crease on the front piece. So there it is. And now these are the cross pieces. So you want to stagger these apart, sort of step them apart so, you know, there's a bit of a gap between them all. I don't do a terribly good job, but honestly, I don't think it matters that much. Once the card is done and you've filled it, nobody's going to notice if you don't have them perfectly even. So you just do your best to aim for even. And I'm lining up the top and the bottom to make sure it goes along the front. And then you just crease it down and then unfold the flap on the right side. So there you go. So now they're all down. Fold the front flap back over and make sure they're all lined up, and then just remove that release paper. And then you're going to fold that right flap over, and you want to make sure all the bottoms are nice and even. I struggled with mine a little bit, but there you match it up to that crease and then press down. It's really pretty easy, guys. And then just fold this back and forth. You want to be sure that it will fold both ways, and they kind of need to be pushed around these boxes. So be bossy. Okay, so now I'm going to cover up those side tabs. I'm putting glue on the back of this piece I've cut and just gluing it down to the back of the box. And that will actually cover up those side tabs that are sticking out on the back. So that just gives you a nice place to write a message. Okay, now I'm sorry I kind of go off screen a little bit here, but I'm trying to find the bottom of this flower where I'm putting it where I want the height to go, and then I know I can trim off the bottom because obviously you don't want them sticking out the bottom. It won't stand up then. And then that cross piece is only 1 inch wide, and so, or maybe it's 1.5 inches. Whatever, you just want a tiny bit of adhesive on the bottom of that stem, and then you can stick it down, and you can stick these down on the front, the back of the cross pieces against the back of the box, so, or the front, just move them around a bit. Now here I'm showing you, this is my envelope, and I would have liked to put that butterfly a little bit higher up, but he won't fit in my envelope if I do that. So you have to keep that in mind when you're putting things into these boxes, that it will fit in the envelope. Otherwise you'll be finding a much bigger envelope. So that's my flowers and leaves and butterflies all put in, and I'm just putting the sentiment on the front of the box. Just gluing everything down. These ended up being very summery cards. I think I really do want summer to come. So there you have it. That's the box card done with the butterflies and leaves all together in it. And there's the first card. So same supplies pretty much, but different cards. So thank you for joining me, everybody. I hope you're having a great day. See you next time.